Hello everyone. Welcome to SRBPS online classes. I'm Suman Balyan, your English preceptor, and I have brought this video for you from the chapter from Hornbill chapter 1, The Portrait of a Lady, written by Khushwant Singh. So let's talk about the author Khushwant Singh. Khushwant Singh is a well-known author and journalist. He was born in 1950 and he had his education at Government College, Lahore. He went to England to study law. When he came back, he did his practice at the Lahore court for some time. Then he joined the Ministry External Affairs, Government of India. He also served All India Radio for some time. He got his name and fame as the editor of the Illustrated Weekly of India. Later, he edited Yoshna, New Delhi, and the Hindustan Times. He travelled widely and had wide exposure to life. His first novel, Train to Pakistan, is now recognized as a classic. He has written many other novels also, like I Shall Not Hear the Nightingale, Delhi, and other is The Company of Women and The End of India. And now I am introducing this chapter. This chapter provides a vivid account of Khushwant Singh's relationship with his grandmother. It describes the various turning points in their relationship. Their friendship was most intimate when the author lived with his grandmother in the village. When they moved to the city, the urban way of life and the modern education in an English medium school weakened the bond of their friendship. The grandmother in the story is in fact a universal figure of selfless maternal love. And if we focus on the title of the story, so this title is very apt because the focus is on the grandmother from the beginning to the end. In a true sense, it is a vivid portrait of the grandmother, and the author gives a detailed account of life and personality of a person with whom he had a long and emotive association. So I hope that you have learnt about Khushwant Singh, introduction of the chapter, and how the title is apt. Next, we will discuss about some expressions given in the beginning of the story. First expression is the thought was almost revolting. Means what was unbelievable for Khushwant Singh? The fact that his grandmother was ever young, because Khushwant Singh had always seen his grandmother as very old, and her face was covered with wrinkles which were running crisscross over her face. Next expression, an expanse of pure white serenity. Here the word serenity means peaceful. Author's grandmother always used to be very peaceful, and she used to wear a white spotless sari. So we can say that she was non-interfering lady and she never interrupted anyone. Next is a turning point. Here, a turning point means a big change. And what was the big change in their friendship? When they shifted to the city, because the parents of Khushwant Singh were already living in the city, and when they settled properly, then they sent for Khushwant Singh and his grandmother also. So though they were lived constantly together in the village, but when they shifted to the city, then they had very less time to meet each other, because the author started going to English medium school and the grandmother was no more to help him in the homework. So that was a turning point in their friendship. Next is accepted her seclusion with resignation. Seclusion means loneliness and resignation means opposition. So we can say that when author went up to the university, he was given a separate room. So they again had very less time to meet each other, and how the grandmother used to pass her time by feeding the sparrows. Next expression is a veritable bedlam of chirping. It means that it was the happiest half an hour for the grandmother, that she used to feed the sparrows, and thousands of sparrows used to sit in the veranda. They used to sit on her forehead, legs and hands and shoulders, and they used to chirp a lot. So it was like a noisy atmosphere. Next is a frivolous rebuke. Here frivolous means light and rebuke means scolding. Though they were chirping a lot, but the grandmother used to make them quiet, and sometimes she used to make them fly away, but it was not the serious scolding. Next is the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum. Here dilapidated dilapidated drum is the worn out drum that is old and having the loose skin. What happens actually, then when he came back from abroad, then she sang a song. Now let's start the story. Actually, there are three phases of author's relationship before he left the country to study abroad. We will talk about the first phase. Like in this picture, you can see that Khushwant Singh is sitting with his grandmother. So in the first phase of the relationship, both the grandmother and Khushwant Singh has the time they spent at the village. They were best friends and companions. Grandmother used to wake him up in the morning and get him ready for school. She always went to school with him because school was attached to the temple. While she sat along with other children in rows to get his lessons, she sat in the temple reciting her prayers. So we can say that they were very close friends to each other and they shared every moment with each other. Here we can say that they were so close that when Khushwant Singh used to go to school, then the grandmother used to accompany him because what she would do, because she was all alone in the house. The parents of Khushwant Singh, they had already settled in the city. So what to do? She was idle, so better to pass her time. And this was the way that she passed her time. Now we will talk about the second phase of their relationship. The second phase of their relation was when they shifted to the city to live with Arthur's parents. Although they shared the same room, but the bond between them was no longer as strong as it was earlier. She could neither accompany him to school nor help him in his studies. There was a particular reason, because he started going to English medium school through motor bus, and that's why she hated that English medium school, because she wanted her grandson to take education in religious education, and she hated music because it was a monopoly of the beggars, and it was just had lewd associations, and it was just confined to the prostitutes. So she was totally upset with the things taught at the school, as there were no teaching about God and scriptures. Now we will talk about the third phase that began when the author was sent to university, and he was given a separate room, because of which the common link of friendship was snapped and the grandmother remained lonely. This is the portrait of Khushwant Singh's grandfather, who is no more in the world, and his portrait was just hung above the mantelpiece at his home. He looked 100 years old with white flowing beard, big turban and loose fitting clothes. So physically he is not present in the chapter, but Khushwant Singh does not forget to mention his grandfather, who has also been an important member of his family and a great tribute to the family. It is very prominent to mention the daily routine of Khushwant Singh and his grandmother. Grandmother would wake up the author in the morning, get him ready for school, sing morning prayers in the hope that he would hear and remember the prayer. He was given breakfast of stale chapatis with butter and sugar. She would accompany him to the school attached to the temple where the priest taught the children, but she hated that Khushwant Singh avoided her monotonous voice. This school was situated in the village. Now you can see the dogs. The dogs, they were fed by the grand lady by chapatis when she used to accompany him to school. And there was a temple adjacent to the school. Just for this temple only, Khushwant Singh's grandmother used to accompany him to school. It was not like that she used to learn the alphabets with her grandson. It was some different opinion that by the time Khushwant Singh learned the alphabet from the priest, then she used to sit inside the temple and reading the scriptures, because she was a religious lady and she could not avoid reading scriptures. She also wanted her grandson to read the scriptures. Now you can see in the picture that she was so close to her grandson. Now there is a twist in the story. Actually, what happens and how there was a turning point in their friendship, and we can say that the friendship was snapped. Fading of friendship. Actually, the parents of Khushwant Singh wrote a letter to them, and they sent for them to shift in the city when the parents themselves shifted in the city properly. So the author and his grandmother moved to the city to live with his parents. The author and grandmother shared the same room. The author began to attend an English medium school. Their friendship faded. As I told you, that grandmother could not help him in his studies because it was an English medium school, and science teaching was there, and there used to have music classes also, but music classes were not liked by grandmother, as she had an opinion that music had lewd association and that was confined to beggars and headlots only. Though she adjusted herself in the city, there was no dogs in the street, but somehow she started spending her time. But their friendship was totally snapped when the author was given a separate room and when he joined the university, and then she accepted her seclusion with resignation. Now, question is that the author got busy in his studies and he started going to university also. But on the other hand, how did the grandmother used to spend her time? So she found out an alternative for her time pass, that she started spinning the wheel, and she used to spin the wheel for the whole day except the half an hour, because half an hour was given for the sparrows, hundreds of sparrows they used to collect in the courtyard. So the author went abroad. The grandmother saw him at the railway station. But here she was not emotional. So we can say that she was very strong lady. And though she did not show any sign of sentimental. And she bade goodbye to her grandson who was going abroad for 5 years. Now we will see that what a great change when he came back. Now, after 5 years, when author came back, means Khushwant Singh came back to his own town, then it was really a homecoming warrior for the grand lady. So she was so happy that she wanted to sing the song of warriors with a neighborhood women. So she collected all the neighborhood women and she started singing the song. Here you will get to know the dilapidated drum. Now you can see on your screen, this is the dilapidated drum. She thumped the drum. She was so happy that the whole night she sang, and after that she fell ill. Now you can see here the happiest moment when he came back. Now, on demand of the whole family, because the whole family persuaded her to stop to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since Khushwant Singh had known her that she did not pray. So what happened? The next morning she was taken ill, and it was a mild fever, and the doctor told that it would go. But Khushwant Singh's grandmother thought differently. What she thought? She told the family that her end was near, and she said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life she had omitted to pray, and she was not going to waste any more time talking to them. All the members protested, but she ignored their protest and she lay peacefully in bed praying and telling her beads. Even before they could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor. Pallor here means a yellow face spread on her face, and they knew that she was dead. So that was a end of that peaceful lady, and we can say you can see on the screen here that the shroud, she was covered with the shroud. But on the day of the death of grandmother, the thousands of sparrows they collected as usual on the usual time. But they were very quiet at that time. We can say that they are dumb creatures, but they also showed their sentiments and emotions for the grandmother.